So the big story, everybody knows the big story, and I'm going to get into this in a way that I hope will be helpful to you. So, state of Texas, in a lawsuit that's very, very well thought out, has petitioned the Supreme Court of the United States to vacate the vote in 4 states, all right? Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The state of Texas is saying to the court, there was fraud in these votes in those 4 states because the states did not live up to their own constitution. So the voting apparatus in Pennsylvania, for example, violated what the Pennsylvania Constitution says, and for the other states as well. Okay. That is not a real debatable issue. Those 4 states did violate their own mandates, their own state mandates. They did. Now, they have excuses, COVID, this, that, and the other thing, but that's where the state of Texas starts. And then it says to the Supreme Court, look, all of our people in Texas who voted for Donald Trump are disenfranchised. Their vote is negated by illegality in those 4 swing states. So that's a constitutional issue that you, the Supreme Court, have to deal with. And you have to find a remedy for it. That's the key word, remedy for it. So 18 other states, and I'm going to name them, have joined with Texas to say the same thing. And it is a very clever, well thought out lawsuit. Here are the states: Missouri, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Arizona, and West Virginia. Now, Arizona did not go for Trump, but the state legislature is Republican. So they have joined this suit. That's interesting. That's the only state that is in there with Texas that voted against Donald Trump, Arizona. Isn't that interesting? Now, the Supreme Court's in a tight spot. As you know, it dismissed the Pennsylvania lawsuit. It just wouldn't even hear it. And the thinking was, look, you had a year to correct this, Pennsylvania, and you didn't do it in the year, so why are you bothering us now? You reap what you sow. That was the rationalization for the court to say, we're not going to get involved with this. Here, it's a little more complicated. But I still think that the Supreme Court is not going to take the case. They won't hear it. And they'll say the state of Texas does not have, quote unquote, standing to sue the other states on election issues when the states themselves are responsible for how they conduct the elections, which is true, which is why we need a new federal law, that there are some standards. Okay, now I could be wrong on that. The Supreme Court should say, all right, we're going to hear this and we're going to stay everything until we decide. But remember, if the court does that, they have to find, the 9 justices have to find a remedy for the 4 swing states not upholding their own constitution. What would the remedy be? You're going to throw out those electoral votes? Well, if they do that, then Trump wins. And then the election is overturned. And then there's massive violence all over the country. Now, I know you're going to write to me saying, well, that shouldn't be a consideration. Judges should just rule on a constitution. But here, there are a lot of variables. And whenever a justice or a judge rules, they should be taking into account what the consequences of the ruling may be. So Roe v. Wade, for example, when the Supreme Court ruled it was legal in the USA to have an abortion, the consequence was that hundreds of millions of babies, or potential human beings, or whatever you want to describe it as, were exterminated. Now, that was the consequence. Now, if I'm a Supreme Court justice, I don't want that on my conscience, because I do believe there is going to be a reckoning after we die. So what would I do? Well, I would vote against Roe v. Wade. because I don't want to be responsible for hundreds of millions of babies being exterminated in a legal manner. So, in every judge's mind, there is that what is going to happen if we stop the election and overturn it. So they find a way not to. Just as they found a way to impose Obamacare. Roberts, well, it's a tax. It wasn't a tax. Everybody knows it wasn't. Roberts wanted Obamacare for whatever reason, so he made it up. But he did. So here, the judges, the justices, the 9 of them, very difficult spot. Fascinating, fascinating case. And of course, President Trump is, right on with this because he believes that these 4 states committed fraud and violated their own constitutions and had mail-in ballots. And there are 2 keys to this. There's the allegation the voting machines did X, Y, and Z. Well, we'll never get to the bottom of that, and that can't be the basis of any legal challenge until the voting machines themselves undergo forensic examination, which is why we need a special prosecutor. We'll get to that in a minute. So voting machines aren't going to even be involved with any of this legal stuff. Mail-in ballots are the problem because these states had rules about mail-in ballots, which they violated. Pennsylvania violated its own rules on mail-ins. And the Supreme Court has to know that. But again, I think they're going to find a way not to hear this. I could be wrong. We are on it. Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. As you all know, the dollar is at a 10-year low, and November could spell real trouble. That's why I recommend you consider physical gold and silver, and the only company I do business with in this area is American Hartford Gold. You can call them right now. Make sure you tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you, and they'll give you a free gold coin on your first qualified order. Since I have been recommending American Hartford Gold, gold's up over 40%, silver over 60%. So please don't wait. Call them now. 877-444-GOLD Gold. 877-444-GOLD Gold, or text GOLD to 65532.